Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I just uploaded a video where I spoke about my hopes and aspirations for MCOC for year 2022. Again, it's quite obvious that 2021 wasn't the greatest year. A lot of things kind of ruined it. And the shoe kept dropping. The other shoe kept dropping throughout the year, and it didn't start great. It kind of escalated with the parry and dex issues, and plenty of other problems, to a point where more and more people are questioning their commitment to the game. There are some more content creators leaving, which is obviously never really a good sign. And well, there's no other way to put it. It doesn't look too great. Now, in the first video, I described the things that I hope for, that I wish for, that would bring this game back, make it more enjoyable, make it more fun, change it, significantly forever, and perhaps ensure that the game carries on for years to come. In this video, however, I will speak about my biggest fears and things that I think each individually could potentially be big enough to force a significant group of players out, and collectively definitely amount for the demise of the game as a whole. Now, the whole thing, the game's dying, the game is dead, is an overused term. Every week somebody says the game's dying. But we don't need to look at the entire situation in binary terms. This is a fairly large game. Yes, it's not the world's biggest game, but it's quite a big game. Quite a lot of people still play it. What we need to look at is whether the game is succeeding or it's receding, or it's failing. Whether the player base is increasing or decreasing. Whether, someone has an optimistic view of future or pessimistic one. I think, there is an overwhelming evidence about the fact that this year the game suffered significant losses financially and, with human resources. This year the game suffered a lot due to Kabam acquiring a lot of technical debt, a lot of their staff leaving, as evident by open vacancies. Plenty of players leaving and content creators leaving. Whenever anybody leaves, there are new people, new channels, new employees coming in. The question is, which direction we're heading? And I think one of the major things that might be subconscious to a lot of people, but a lot of people have recently especially come to realize that has changed in the game. And there are some people still denying the fact that it has shifted. The Kabam White Knights is how you progress in this game and how you earn rewards in this game. And again, let me just as a small showcase. Brian Grant made an excellent video highlighting the exact points and problems going year for year for gifting event rewards, and also like more recent video highlighting the rewards in actual content, what you can earn versus what you purchase. And fact of the matter is that you can't earn all that much, if anything at all. Compared to what you can buy. This game currently is dominated by like 4 events in between Spring Cleaning, July 4th, Cyber Weekend, and Gifting Event, where you can amass more resources than you can earn throughout the entire year. Whilst obviously Kabam needs to find ways to monetize as many aspects of the game as possible, they have clearly shifted the way they make money. And if it used to be that you spend money to help you clear content better, where it used to be that you spend money to get a pop-up on the content rewards, or maybe expand your roster kind of width ways. Money gave you options. Money gave you ease of life. It used to be more or less like, can't beat Act 5.3 without using revives. I'm going to spend $50 to buy units to get revives. Nobody does that anymore. And now is if you're going to spend $50, you're going to get more rewards than you get for exploring Act 5. And that is the shift. Where we have went from the game where we largely played for our rewards and paid for easier access to them and paid for some additional optional things, optional extras, to where we pay for the rewards and play for optional extras, so to speak. Like in Act 7, every single chapter of Act 7, you know, my biggest criticism about Act 7 has been the rewards. They're not meaningful, not when you put them next to July 4th or spring cleaning. You get a laughable amount in comparison. And I think that's kind of like a good place where it starts, where we get a new chapter in the story quest, like, you know, every 3-4 months, just like we get one of these big sales. It used to be where the rewards in between the big act chapters or story content or some extra events, you know, they rivaled and exceeded the amount that we could pay and buy for. Nobody in its entire game could have a rank 5 5-star until you explored Act 5. And that was it. If you wanted to have a rank 5 5-star, on day 1, as it became possible, you had to explore Act 5. You could purchase some bits of rank 5 materials, but they were not enough to rank 5 a champion. And all of that has changed. So don't tell me that, you know, it's always been like that. No, it hasn't been. It has been a very, very big shift in what MCOC is fundamentally and how it functions. And that is my biggest fear, that we move more in the direction of what matters are the transactions that you make in the game rather than how well you play, what content you beat. So that is my hope for, well, fear and hope, I suppose. That is my fear in 2022, that we keep on the same track. And if we do, again, that's going to be enough, and it already has been enough to make a lot of people quit. Because it's just a filthy feeling that nothing you do matters unless you have X amount of dollars in your bank account. That's not a game anymore. It's a digital collection or digital wallet or whatever. The moment buying shit matters more than playing through stuff, it stops being a game primarily. It starts being a marketplace for transactions, for digital goods. And that is my biggest fear. Which is also, I think, the primary reason why, for instance, Brian is, you know, stepping away. And that alone, it has to change. It really, really has to. Right, the second thing we cannot ignore, relics. Especially because many people don't realize, but the start of the relics is here. For people that read the last dev diary that we have ever had, it was quite a big one, and a lot of people have forgotten about it. But for the people that read it, reread it, and, you know, committed it largely to the memory, relics are tied in with strikers. Strikers. Collect strikers and combine them with other buffs to create insanely powerful relics to assist your champions in combat. The entire text of strikers here. This year, you'll get to play the jewel in the crown of the relics system. Strikers will be the top tier equipables you can apply to relics. They provide access to unique abilities that will help you cover your weaknesses and enhance your strengths. Relics is very high, top of my biggest fear list. Because Relics is going to be something that is going to get monetized to the bone. And I know that for a fact because I spoke with a person who's in charge of designing Relics. He didn't want to say it exclusively, but monetization is going to be a very significant part of it. I can already tell you now that you're going to be looking at the new cab crystal type thing that you can buy infinite amounts of, get more and better relics or some, you know, jewels or whatever else to enhance your relics. And then the culmination of that is going to be the strikers on top of it. So strikers coming to the game, you know, a lot of people are excited to test it out, but they don't have the full context of it. What we are going to be able to experience the beginnings of in next month's side event is going to be something we're going to end up competing and opening crystals for and spending a shit ton of money. Now, there are obvious upsides to this as well, but there's also downsides. The bigger the downsides are obviously that this is going to make relatively straightforward process of acquiring a champion in many cases. So into acquiring a champion, having to awaken it, having to get highest rarity relic for it, and then having the striker to equip to it. So that, again, is more than likely gonna significantly increase the RNG role and the disparity between people who are able to purchase shit ton of relic crystals and between the people who won't. Think about it. When I talk about RNG role in this, is let's say right now you have to toss the coin 2 times. You need to, let's say, pull a champion and dupe the champion, right? So what are the odds of, I don't know, tossing a coin, getting heads 2 times in a row? You know, they're quite good. Or 25%. So 50% you get it in the first time around, and then 50, and again, every other try you'll get the second time around. But, you know, tossing a coin 3 times in a row is significantly less likely. And now imagine if instead of a coin, you're using dice that has 200 sides, because we have 200 champions in a game. You know, it was bad enough to get a champion and then awaken a champion, 6-star one. And now we're going to have an entirely new layer on top of it to get a champion, to awaken the champion, to have the 6 stones to sig him up, and then to be lucky to pull appropriate relic and striker and everything else. That sounds scary at the very least to me, especially considering that there definitely is going to be a lot of monetization involved. Also, the fact that they are flat out saying that relics are going to make their debut in contest in solo competitive mode is the biggest thing I fear, because solo competitive mode is the biggest hope, the biggest torch I myself hold for this game. I think solo competitive mode could potentially be the solution to majority of the problems in the game, whether it is rewards distribution or feeling that you can actually earn meaningful rewards or having a content to play, because in theory there is infinite replayability in solo competitive mode. But if that is going to get ruined by relics and being excessively monetized to a point where somebody has higher relic, well, acquisition rate, you're going to have no chance of competing with them, and that again is going to create many different classes and subclasses of summoners. You know, it's just, again, very depressing thought, where something that everybody's looking forward to, or a very significant portion of active player base is looking forward to solo competitive mode, and it can easily be ruined by the, in my opinion, unnecessary and unwanted addition of relics. The only reason relics are tolerated is because people are afraid of 7 stars, which ironically I think is another problem in the game. I think the game would be better off if we had seen the start of 7 stars. Because then I guess 6 stars wouldn't scale like wet noodles. Right now, 6-star rank 4 champions are 14% stronger than 6-star rank 3 champions. Which again, is a depressive thing, because it makes you think, what's the point? Everything in game, apart from competitive modes, you know, you can use 5-star rank 5, 6-star rank 2s. And that is because Kabam tuned down 6-star power progression. There is a very obvious manipulation of power levels when it comes to 6-star champions, to a point where taking a 6-star champion from rank 1 to 2 is more meaningful than taking a 6-star champion from rank 2 to 4. So rank 2 to 3 to 4. And rank 5 is going to have even less. Rank 5 is only going to have 12% increase, which makes the entire point of having rank 5 a lot less exciting. So the gear system, the relic system, and the fact that that is the reason why we have no 7 stars is quite frightening. I think this could be one of Kabam's biggest mistakes. Maybe I'm alone in that. The third thing involves Kabam's technical depth. Kabam has done a lot of things, good and bad, when it comes to bending the rules of the game engine, which has ended up with them having to design a brand new game engine, right? And with that, obviously we have had our input issues, but that is not the only point where we have all of this technical depth accumulated. Kabam has never done a massive sweep up of their game issues, to a point where we can go to Aunt May, and I will not struggle finding 10, 20, 30, or 50 champions that are currently bugged. We can make a very quick experiment. APOC, is he bugged? Why, yes, he is indeed, because he is applying bleeds and poisons on champions that are meant to be immune to that. Now, can we find any more quick bugs? I think we can. I think Silvori and Crossbones are both bugged, because every second time you dash back and you try to hold block, the timer doesn't activate, which, you know, can ruin using that champion. I think Diablo is, or definitely was, bugged with his Kingpin synergy and a few other things, when which poisons he refresh, which he doesn't. They might have fixed that, but that existed for a long time. Elsa is bugged to a point where she can evade from opponents hitting you in a face mid combo. Dragon Man is bugged with his Unstoppable. Now, can we find more bugs quickly? I'm sure we can. We don't need to look too far. Hawkeye definitely was superbly bugged, might have been fixed. Icarus, still bugged. Icarus, despite them trying to fix that bug 3 or 4 times, is still bugged with having a power increase on his Incinerates. Do we find any more easy and obvious bugs in the game? I'm quite sure that I'm missing through, because, you know, I'm just trying to remember them on the spot. Obviously, Mole Man, still bugged, for better or worse. I'm sure, again, a lot of you will point out plenty of bugs for me yourselves. Professor X is bugged, where, you know, every so often he doesn't refresh the provinces when he should. I'm sure, again, there are a whole bunch of bugs that we are unaware of. The whole Labyrinth Await situation with champions like Nick Fury, that has never been looked into, even though opponents are not meant to be able to wait. Purgatory, 100% bugged. Do we have more bugs? I mean, we can keep going and I'll keep finding them. We can keep going and I'll keep finding more and more champions that are in fact bugged. Miles still bugged, because occasionally he does get hit in the face, even though he shouldn't. And that's the point. That's the point. And that's just the champion bugs. It's not the node bugs. It's not the interaction bugs. It's just literally, you know, the flat out champion bugs, not even going through all the content. To a point where I think a significant percentage of the champions are bugged. significant percentage of the interactions are bugged. And if it doesn't get fixed, you know, there's no consistency to anything. And it's impossible to commit to a game where you don't know what is going to work how. And that is one of my biggest fears, that this situation is going to keep escalating. Kabam is going to keep ignoring their bugs and their problems. And we're going to end up with a game where every other thing is broken and we're somehow okay with that. That game has no future. That game has no future. And moving forward, my fourth biggest point. I can't even call this a fear, but it's kind of like more an unfortunate realization. And that is Kabam's arrogance. Kabam's arrogance and refusal to listen to their players. And we can find examples of that pretty much everywhere. But let's narrow it down. Let's say Alliance War. In Alliance, we have problems with Alliance War, and we have been saying that Alliance War hasn't been cool, fun, or engaging for a really long time. Really, really long time. Let's say even before the Alliance War, defensive tactics became a thing. And players unanimously said, we don't like defensive tactics. And instead of taking defensive tactics away, Kabam said, you don't like those defensive tactics. How about these ones? And they changed them up slightly. And we still didn't like them, and half of them were bugged. And then we kept saying, we don't like defensive tactics in Alliance War. We want a new map. We want new node combinations. And Kabam said, you don't like defensive tactics, but how about if we give you offensive tactics? Which have never mattered in history of Alliance War, because the entire idea of boosting champions that are not used in Alliance War is shit, and the boosts are not potent enough for people to start using those champions in Alliance War. So what happens then? People keep complaining about defensive tactics, and there always being like one defensive tactic that everybody has to play against. And then again, instead of taking the defensive tactics away, Kabam says, we're going to take the choice away, which was arguably the only kind of like tolerable option, because we could choose between like 3 different defensive tactics. And, you know, for top tier players, for top tier people in Alliance Wars, I said, you're not going to be allowed to choose anymore. Do you like them better now? And the answer is still no. So since introduction of Alliance War offensive and defensive tactics, nobody has ever liked them or wanted them. Nobody has ever said, Kabam, please give us more defensive tactics. But they keep making them, and they don't listen. It's similar with Paradox. Paradox came out in 7.3, and the feedback in the 7.3 beta, as far as I can tell, was we don't like Paradox. But they kept it in there. And people played 7.3 and said, largely, obviously not everybody, but majority of the player base keeps saying, we don't like Paradox. And guess what we see in 7.4 beta? Every third path has Paradox on, despite the fact that nobody really wants to. And I think the most disgusting display of that arrogance right now is the MCOC champions. I know the issue has kind of died down a bit because it's been a while since the new ones got added. But when MCOC champions got added, and people said that we don't want them, we don't like them. And we're not talking about champion abilities. Let me make it 100% clear. I don't want another hipster maestro in the game who looks like he's somewhere from LA in a vegan vape bar, chilling, walking around in flip-flops and, you know, having Starbucks in his hand, you know. I don't want that champion. But Overseer, as his abilities, you know, I'm fine with them. I kind of like using that ability set. I'm not the biggest Overseer hater, but Overseer could have been like an actual, you know, something else. Or Silver Centurion could have easily been a character that we want. Or maybe Jabari Panther could have been Okoye, or could have been something else. We're not talking about abilities, we're talking about characters, character models, and character designs. When we saw the Summoner Choice Rewards of 2022, we were shocked that so many champions are not coming to the game. Like there's Baytray, Bill, Quicksilver. And if you think about it, most of the popular champions, or a significant portion of those popular champions, could have been added if Kabam wouldn't be so arrogant and keep pushing things that we have openly, largely as a community said we don't like and enjoy. And what made it disgusting? What made it disgusting was a certain Kabam employee who is in charge of this thing comparing himself to a literal slave to the player base if he doesn't get to add these champions. He's a very, very wealthy man with a lot of influence and no common things with anybody who has ever been, deemed to be a slave. But the arrogance of those tweets and the idea where I'm an artist, I'll do as I want, I'm not a slave to the player base and players wish. Well, guess what? Guess what? Neither are the players to the game. You are entitled to do what you want, and we are entitled to not to like. And that is the biggest thing, where instead of having an open dialogue and someone listening, okay, so do you not like these characters just because I created them, or just because who they are, or how they are, or why? There's this immediate sense of being offended. It's like, how dare you not like what I put in front of you? And that is what the game largely feels with player feedback. We hate defensive tactics. You don't know. Like, maybe you're gonna like these. Instead of listening to us, they think they know better than us. Sometimes they do, but often they don't. Be that these paradoxes, be that alliance war tactics, be that MROC champions. It's just examples after example where we can hear that the feedback of players is heard, maybe, but never acted upon. Like Guillotine. All that Guillotine Ask Anything session that happened with the Guillotine's buff effectively culminated with Kabam saying, we heard your feedback, but we're gonna not do anything about it. Oh, you voted for her? Who cares? And that is how it genuinely feels, and that is what I hope has to change, and that is what could potentially sink the game if it doesn't. With the community at large feeling like they are banging their head against the wall, and there's an arrogant prick standing in next to them saying that, you know nothing, we know best, it's not gonna end well. I think, specific community manager highlights that idea quite frequently with sarcastic, snide answers, some arrogant put downs or whatever else. And the last point is the secrecy. The secrecy cannot go on. The fact that we do not know the plans. We always know the bare minimum. We as a community are always kind of kept at arm's length. And, even the dev diary, it's old. Most of the points they didn't fulfill. And it's from spring and summer 2021. So it's been over a half a year since I have put together dev diary. And it's not just the dev diary. The fact that, they failed on half of the promises, it's one thing. We can cut them some slack with the pandemic, with the open vacancies, with the redesign of game engine. But in general, a great example would be right now the situations for top tier players and gifting event. And last year, obviously, gifting event was very meaningful too. But the reason why there was a lot less debate of the direction of the game and what's the point to play the game was because we, at the very least, had some sort of information about, not last year, but 2 years ago when the first rank 3s appeared. And, you know, there was a lot of discussion, but significant part of the discussion got tamed by the fact that we knew that Abyss is coming. Right now, we know nothing. We know nothing about the plans, the release schedule of the event. And again, wouldn't have to stick to it 100%, but how helpful would it be if we actually got, let's say, some sort of yearly plan? Dev diary / yearly plan saying January is a cooldown month, February 7.4, March, you know, we're gonna have like a big event. Don't need to give us the details, don't need to give us the specifics, just give us some information to look forward to. And it's not just events and, you know, happenings in the game. It goes further with the whole idea of they announced the very last minute that January month is not going to have any buffs, right? And then they blame Christmas for it. That shit is just stupid and insulting everybody's intelligence. They themselves say that buffing champions takes months. So there are two possible scenarios. Either they're lying and Christmas have nothing to do with this, which is, you know, probably at the very least partially true. Or B, at the very least, they knew it and they planned for it accordingly months ago. And they could have mentioned it 2, 3, whatever months that, you know, January is going to be time to reload, rethink, and we're not going to be buffing the champions. There was absolutely no need to drop that piece of information at the very last moment. And that goes for a ton of things. Similar, gifting event rewards, you know, no. Previous years, we knew what the rewards are going to be. This time, we found it out when the event went live. And the more secretive Kabam are, the less we trust them. Simple as that. The less they tell us, the less relationship, the less faith we have with them. And I think that is also, again, a very big thing that's causing this divide between Kabam and community. If there would be more open dialogue, you know, it'd be a lot easier to overlook the problems and shortcomings. And it would be much more healthy for both Kabam and us to interact with each other. But yeah, so those are my biggest fears for MCOC in 2022. Number one is the generic direction of the game and the discussion of what is MCOC. Is it a game you play, or is it an app you buy shit in? Very important. Gears and Relics and the monetization there. Technical depth. Feel like it's increasing every month because shit gets more and more broke every month. Just the generic arrogance of the development team and the refusal to listen to the players. And lastly, all the secrets they keep and information they refuse to share. All of that is right now ruining the game. And all of that has potential to do even more damage. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next